And we back with some more Proverbs today, this time covering Proverbs chapter 18, which reads something like this, starting at verse 20. From the fruit of their mouth, a person's stomach is filled. With the harvest of their lips, they are satisfied. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The bigger picture from this entire scripture actually just speaks of the usage of our words, the power of life and death in the tongue, and our words matter. Okay. Probably the worst nursery rhyme that you ever heard was sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That is such cap, bucko, because that is not real. That is not biblical. And in fact, words do hold weight, words do matter. And what you speak over others, over your circumstances, situation, over your own life has impact. Now, let's not get this twisted. I'm definitely not going in the direction of what new age spirituality or naming and claiming or even ideas behind manifesting, as culture would put it. What I am telling you, however, is that we do see impact spiritually, mentally, and emotionally from the words that we speak to ourselves and the words that we speak towards others. Let me give you a prime example. If you are an individual or you know someone who has struggled with body image of themselves, they don't feel they look good, they feel as if maybe they are very unattractive. And what happens is because we tell ourselves these stories, we tell ourselves these different descriptions and characteristics over and over again, that we are ugly, you're not looking good. After a while, as that is slowly programming your mind to believe in that thought, it then turns out into your actions. You now begin to eat more. You begin to not take care of yourself even more, right? We don't get into practices, rhythms, and regimes to actually change maybe perhaps what we're seeing. And then it just continues into a cycle. Something that was first spoken, that is then a thought, that then becomes an action, that then is something we replay over and over in our minds. And it's a method that programs our brains to now believe that what we are saying about ourselves in such a negative fashion is true. And over time, it becomes harder and harder to break away from such thinking simply because we've put so much effort and time into thinking that type of thought. And this is essentially what happens with the words that we speak over ourselves, and consequently what we speak and what we think towards others. So the longer that we say these things, the longer that we repeat these things, the longer we stay in such a cycle. What is the point of me telling you all of this? Because if we aren't careful over the words that we speak, we are very well able to create certain outcomes in our lives simply based off of words that we always told ourselves. And we will lose sight of the root, of the beginning, of where it started, of who said it, of how it happened, of what we were feeling in the moment when it was first stated. And we'll just carry it around in our identity, and we'll never actually do the right things to overcome such a negative programming to then see better results in our lives in the future. And so essentially what I want to get to you in this proverb, and I hope that is as applicable as possible, is that there's a polarity effect in every area and way of our life. There's a positive and there's a negative. There's life and there's death. There is an abundance and there's lack. And so what I want you to focus on as you continue journeying in your singleness, in building relationship with yourself, with others, ultimately first and foremost with God, it is so important and vital that we watch our mouths. We watch what we say over ourselves. We watch what we speak over the lives of others, how easily we can uplift somebody or destroy somebody based on what we said. And likewise, how easily we can uplift ourselves or destroy ourselves based on what we say towards ourselves regarding circumstances and situations that are in front of us. And my encouragement to you, my friends, is to choose abundance. Choose to speak life into yourself, life around the situation, no matter how negative the situation can be. And trust me when I tell you, it can get really dark. The only thing that's actually going to give us legitimate hope in certain situations, it's not by lying to ourselves or going to the far opposite extremes. What we are going to do is focus on where we are, focus on what we already have, focus on the truth about ourselves, comparing the stories that we're running within our minds based on the negative things that we're saying compared to what is actually true, what's in the reality, what do we know, and more importantly, what does God have to say about the situation? And I think when we turn our attention to those things rather than focusing on the negative stories, sequences that we pour into ourselves based on the negative circumstances around us, I think we have not only a stronger peace of mind, but we have greater opportunities to create more positive results in our lives and move forward even when negative things and circumstances hit our lives. And I think some of you would be really surprised to see how much of the anxiety, how much of the depression, how much of negative focuses that you have in your life begin to uplift once you begin to grow in a practice of uplifting and encouraging yourself, not just with these affirmations in a way, but more so with the word, with scripture, with the Bible, with truth, with what Jesus has to say about you, despite what you have or what you are without. It's all about perspective and focusing more on truth instead of taking certain aspects of ourselves and forming storied sequences, feeding into the lack, feeding into the negativity, knowing we have the power to revert that to saying and speaking more positive things over our lives, more importantly, rooted from a place of truth. And even more importantly, what God has to say about us and the situation. So, my biggest encouragement to you is to consider these few things. Number one, what are you telling yourself? What are the stories that you are sharing over your life? Whatever circumstance, whatever situation you're in front of, what are you telling yourself that you're never going to have, you're never going to be, you can't do, you can't get here? And a lot of times when we're stuck, a lot of I can't statements pop out that actually derail us and don't actually help us progress. So, are you focusing on the negative or are you choosing to look at the positive? Are you choosing to find something to be grateful for, seeking out gratitude actively in your life, where you are and where you're going? I don't care how small it is. It doesn't matter to me how minute it may seem to you. Be grateful for it. Zoom in on it, show appreciation towards it, and watch how your mind slowly begins to program to seek out the things that you're already surrounded by in abundance instead of zooming in to everything that you're without, causing you to feel less valuable, cherished, and appreciated as a person, and more importantly, as God's creation. And I do want to encourage you that it can take time. It's not something that can happen in a night and day difference, where as you are speaking and sharing more truth over your life, more of what God says over your life, that it's just going to be something you're automatically going to believe up front. In fact, I might actually suggest to you that it's going to be a challenge simply because your brain is so programmed to buy into the negative things you've spoken over your life that when you start doing new things, different things, and things that are stretching the capacity of your thinking, it's like a rubber band ball. Your mind snaps right back to what it was originally formed by. It's going to take work. It's going to take practice. It's going to take consistency and putting in the effort to continuously get into a rhythm of reminding yourself of, more importantly, what Jesus says about you and comparing the lies that you run away with in your thinking to the truth of what is actually going on in reality. But my encouragement to you is to make it a habit, get into a rhythm and a consistent flow of doing this day in, day out. Create your gratitude list, journal out your thoughts, write out the lies and storied sequences that you're coming up with, and ask yourself, what is the truth about any of this? Reflect back to moments where something may have initially been said to you that was really crushing and weighty on your life in that moment, to learn where it began and how it's taken up a life of its own over time. And the greatest thing that you can do with all of that information is to simply give it to God in prayer, getting around community and people who are able to uplift you, encourage you, speak life into you, and remind you of who God says you are, even when you can't see it yourself. And as you grow from telling yourself these negative story sequences, you're not only gaining the power to speak life into yourself again, but you're gaining the power to speak life into others who can remind you of where you're coming from. You are more than a conqueror. You are a child of God. You are loved. You are chosen. You are set free. You are valuable and have such a unique, immense value in your life that wasn't given by man, but was given and identified by your Father in heaven. And as you continue to put these things into your daily practice and rhythm of life, just know that your words always hold weight. And today is another day to choose the stories you're going to buy into that either have the power to speak life or have the power to speak death. And life is always where Jesus is and his thoughts towards you. I appreciate you guys all so much for tuning into this content. If you like this kind of video and want to hear more, subscribe, like this video, share this devotional with a friend who can be uplifted and encouraged on the usage of words and the power of life and death in the tongue. And as always, until our next conversation, be easy and be breezy, my friend. Peace.